Hi, my name is Angela, and I am the Children's Director here at Sacramento First Church of the Nazarene. Today we're going to talk about how God provides. For those of you who have watched my vlogs in the past, you know that I had a miscarriage in June of this year. What most of you do not know is that I had another miscarriage on September 24th. I want to give you a little history here and a little recap in case you didn't see any of my past vlogs. And I want to explain that I've been told for most of my adult life that I would not be able to have children. So getting pregnant in March was not something that was even on my radar. Losing that baby in June was an absolute shock and something that I did not imagine I would ever be able to get through. Losing another baby less than 4 months later was just completely unimaginable. So from the beginning, in March of this year, I wasn't feeling well. I had had some surgery done on my teeth. The coronavirus had just started to become a thing, and I just wasn't feeling well overall. I was depressed and I was feeling sad and I was unmotivated, which is unlike me. Due to my previous history being told I could not conceive, I had previously been tested for early menopause and had displayed some signs of potential early menopause a couple years ago. So when all of this started happening and I began noticing my fatigue and my face was breaking out, I was having night sweats, my hair was falling out, I was convinced that I was going through menopause. I got in touch with my doctor in May and she agreed that it sounded menopausal and asked me to come in and do some blood work. She said that she had to do a pregnancy test to rule it out, but that it was just standard practice. Pregnancy never even crossed my mind. After the test results came back and we found out that I was pregnant, Hav and I were overjoyed, of course. We threw ourselves into planning for the baby, and in typical Angela fashion, I went crazy buying things and getting rid of things to prepare for the baby. During this time, Hav and I kept talking about what we were going to do during youth group. We were concerned about how we were going to handle having a baby and dealing with all the stuff we do with the church kids, including regular Wednesday and Sunday activities, but also special events such as the mission trip that we had planned for this year, New Year's Eve, and other holidays, and all of the times that the kids come to hang out at our house. I mentioned to Hav in passing that it would be nice if I could work in the church nursery full time, but I figured that there was no way that that would work as we had a full-time nursery person and I didn't know what would happen with youth group kids. But the idea kept lingering in my mind and I just wasn't sure why. So back to my pregnancy. We had announced it to our family and our close friends, and we even gave the baby a nickname. So when I discovered at my ultrasound at 11 weeks, when I had my first ultrasound at 11 weeks and I was told that the baby was seriously underdeveloped and the heartbeat was undetectable, we were stunned. I don't remember much about the days that followed because I was just numb. I had a procedure to safely remove the baby a couple of days later, which was the most painful and traumatic experience I've ever been through. Hav and I had talked about the nursery idea a couple more times while I was pregnant, and we both loved the idea but had no clue why we couldn't seem to let it go. A couple of days after I had the procedure, Pastor Marcia asked if she could come over. Hav and I had talked before she came by and agreed not to mention anything about the nursery because at that point it was just a weird idea. So Pastor Marcia came over and she mentioned that our regular full-time nursery person might not be able to be in the nursery anymore. Marcia said she had been praying about what to do and one person kept coming to her during her prayers, and that person was me. When she said that, Hav and I looked at each other and we just started cracking up laughing. Marcia, of course, was confused and asked what was so funny, and we explained to her that we had been talking about it, but we had no idea why we had been talking about it or how it would even work. Marcia asked if the position did become available, would I be interested in doing it, and I said yes. I want you all to know that leaving youth group is not something I took lightly. We love those kids and we think of them as our own, but I was feeling an overwhelming urge from God to take this new path. So as time went on, I prayed, and we talked numerous times with Pastor Marcia, and it was decided that I would take over the nursery full time, but in a different role than our church has seen before. Marcia and I have worked together over the last few months to really figure out how to make the nursery and the children's church safe for our kids, yet still spiritually fulfilling. We began cleaning out the old nursery and planning a new design for what was already a fabulous place for our kids. We spent weekend after weekend at the church going through craft supplies and curriculum and old toys, pulling staples out of walls, painting, ordering new toys, and new safety equipment. We made numerous trips to Home Depot, millions of phone calls trying to figure out what paint colors we wanted, looking at carpet samples, and just endless hours of work put into revamping this for our kids. And while all this sounds like a lot of work and a huge project, which it was, do you know what this really was for me? It was healing. See, God knows how I function. God knows that I need to be busy. This is an innate part of my being, and I thrive when I'm busy and when I'm working hard. So all of the hours we spent at the church focusing on the nursery and this huge project were hours that I didn't spend at home crying or thinking about our tragic loss. God gave me hours and hours with my close friends Marcia and Chris and Stacy working here at this church every Saturday. God allowed me to cry behind my paintbrush while I was painting grass on this beautiful new sun wall behind me. God gave me a safe haven in our nursery to feel loved and never forgotten in the midst of our tragedies. So when I found out in September that I was pregnant again, I thought, awesome. This completely fits into our plans. We'll be able to bring the baby right into the nursery with us and everything will be great. But then my ultrasound showed that the baby was too small, and then a week later I lost the baby at home. And friends, let me tell you, I do not understand how any woman who has experienced this sort of pain lives through it without faith. I have been through really hard times in my life. I have experienced loss and sorrow, but I have never felt despair as I have in the last 4 months after going through what we've been through. However, we are nearing the end of our nursery renovation, and the last thing I had time for was to sit around and feel sorry for myself. So I picked myself up once again, and through my tears, I went to church on my day off. I organized new toys. I moved things around, had meetings to discuss safety operations, looked into new curriculum, and made millions of trips to Home Depot, Hobby Lobby, Target, and Walmart looking for the right storage boxes, the perfect pictures to hang on the walls, and new craft supplies. I want you all to know that this story wasn't designed to get you to feel sorry for me or accolades for all the work that I've put in. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that without God, I would be at home on my couch with 4-day-old unwashed hair, dirty pajamas, and a pile of empty potato chip bags around me. But God knew what was coming. God knew what was going to happen to me, and God knew what our church was going to need. When Marcia sat at my kitchen table and said she thought that I would be a good fit for the nursery after Hub and I had talked endlessly about it, all I could do was laugh. You cannot tell me or convince me that God did not orchestrate that beautifully. God provided for me in my darkest time and gave me something to focus on other than myself and my sadness. God provided my church family to surround me and love me through this. God even provided all the paint in my hair and the backaches from working nonstop to remind me of the bigger picture. I'm so sorry that Sandy is no longer going to be a part of our nursery, but I'm so grateful that God used her for as long as he did, and now God's ready to use me. I'm grateful for the opportunity I had to work with our teens for so long, and now I look forward to being a part of the nursery. The last thing I want to say is how grateful I am to God for this platform where I can be myself in front of you, even if that means sitting here and ugly crying like I do almost every week. I'm overwhelmed with my love for this church and my church family, and I'm so excited that God is using me in new ways. Thank you.